Hey everyone, it's Colleen, the Preparedness Pro, and I've got another hot episode for you today. Today we are with Rob Burleson. And who is Rob Burleson? Well, he just happens to be one of the partners involved with a company by the name of Jarbox. If you are a canner and you have not heard of Jarboxes, you are missing out. It's one of the ways to leverage the value of all your hard work and make sure that it stays intact. So we're going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk about the canning industry as a whole. Rob being in the canning industry, I figured, he was good for a question or two in that regard. So Rob, thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. I'm actually very, very excited to be with you today.
Oh, well, I love it when our guests are very, very excited. That makes it for a great show. So thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's just get right into it. So can you share, why don't you share everyone what a Jarbox looks like? I know this is odd for radio, but we also do this video. Yeah. So let's share with everyone what does a Jarbox look like? Let's start there.
It comes in two sizes, quart and pint. This is our pint right here. As you can see, each unit has two shells, okay? And they all have individual cells designed to hold your jar securely, completely, and tightly. I got a big picture here. Look at that. Fantastic.
Yep. We're technology here.
Absolutely. So each little cup or cell holds your jar. There's a top and a bottom that are 100% interchangeable. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to know which one's the top, which one isn't. They lock together to hold everything secure and tight, like so. There, they just click right in. And what's really interesting, and it's hard to see here, but on the bottom of each one of these are some circles.
Yeah, some ridges.
Yeah, they're called, it's an interlocking device. So when you set them on top of each other, they lock into each other and form a very secure and stable tower.
Yeah, tower's right. That's what I've got in my food storage room is the tower of jars.
Absolutely. And the wonderful thing about that is because of lock-ins, setting boxes on top of boxes and boxes on top of boxes, because the weight of the box of the jars in the box will crush the ones on the bottom. That doesn't happen with Jarbox because of how sturdy it is. Each one of these is made from 100% recycled medical grade plastic. And the best part about it is it's made 100% in the United States. They are produced in Riverton, Wyoming.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about the creation of Jarboxes.
Sure.
So what's inspired the creation of a product designed specifically, for jar storage of all things?
Sure. The developer and founder of Jarbox was a woman named Jerry McFarland, and she discovered that she had an issue. Her issue was that her jars broke from time to time. They would fall down, they would break, they would crush, different things happened to them. And she wanted to solve that problem. And she went to a guy in Riverton, Wyoming, a very, very creative man who named Rob Wright, who owns Legacy Molding, which is where Jarbox is made. And together they developed the design to secure and preserve your preserves.
Yeah. After you put in so much hard work, and it's hard work to get those together. A broken jar or a jar that's come unsealed because of the elements, that just breaks your heart.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can understand why Jerry would do that.
This is what she did. And from that, they developed Jarbox.
So, we're going to talk about the price point on these and
Sure.
about the value of these, but let's go a little bit further. What are some unique features in it that you think that people don't realize right off the bat when they look at it? They just may say, "Oh, this is just something to hold your jars in."
Okay. The unique thing is that they have what's called their hermaphroditic parts. So the top can be the
I
top,
think
the
you
bottom
just
can
like
be
being able to say that word, Rob.
yeah. They the top can be the bottom can be the top. Um, one jar box fits another jar box. They all work like that together. You can actually turn one upside down on your countertop, use the interlocking things to put the other one the right way up, and you've got a higher leveled working surface with all of your jars individually in there. That's kind of a neat thing that I like. One of the other things that people do with it that I find fascinating is they use the jar box itself come planting season to use for their starter plants in the little cups inside the jar box. They put the lid on it and it becomes its own little greenhouse.
Yep.
And protects their starters. And now you also have a tray to carry the starters out to the garden to plant them. The jar box is 100% dishwasher safe, so you can clean them out, get them all ready. They help store the empty jars before you're ready to can, and then the full jars after you've done it. They're fantastic. We've got a lot of other people who use it for their own hobbies and creations, handymen who use them to keep nuts, bolts, screws, and other parts separate.
Yeah.
The people that manufacture it at Legacy Molding use it for quality control purposes. They put samples in the cups into all their stations. There's just so many amazing uses for it. And one of the things that's interesting is when we get somebody who sends us a picture of what it is that they do that's different. And it's quite fun to be in contact with people that way.
So what are some of those different ways? Are they what you just described then, basically?
Got a guy who makes pipes, and he's a tobacconist, and he makes his own pipe, and he stores them in there. He designs them and decorates them, and he stores them in the individual cells.
People are inventive, that's for sure.
There are people. Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like one more.
No, you go ahead.
This is one that's really fun. We ran into a woman who sends her children to college with pre-made meals canned in the jars, and then they put them in the jar boxes to take them back and forth to college.
So yeah, I love that ability to just carry them all. How would you say it stands apart from the other storage options? I've seen fabric versions. I've seen, paper box versions. What's the biggest stand apart?
Well, number one is going to be durability and the ability to withstand elements. That's going to be number one. Yeah. I think number two is the fact that this is something that is not going to fail. You can do so many different things. If you got a really tall stack or whatever, and you're transporting it, you can use bungee cords to strap them down. The weight of jars does not affect anything whatsoever, other than the fact that your jar box is a little heavier to carry when it's full of stuff, right? But other than that, there really is nothing else out there quite like it. There is a product out there that is made in China that tries to imitate, but from what I have seen of it, it does not lock together the same way. They don't seal up as tightly as ours do, and there are other issues. There's a lot of quality issues as far as the stability and sturdiness of it.
Yeah. Now, so let's talk about the price point here. I know that I've seen them range. I know what your recommended retail price is, but I've seen them range between $20 and $25, depending on what the size jar is. Correct?
Well, actually, the price point is $24.99 for the pint or the quart. Okay, same price. Right now, we're going to be running some other unique specials all the time. for people that your listeners and our followers
Yeah.
that we like to call the Jarbox Nation. Once you have a Jarbox, you're part of the Jarbox Nation. So we like to call it that. And that's pretty much the price point for it. And we have to remind people that during the thing they like to call the pandemic, the price of plastic shot through the roof, and it has not come down. That's why the price is where it is.
Well, it's not much more than when I first got mine over 10 years ago. I mean, you guys have kept that pricing pretty steady. But let's talk about this, because at first I thought, man, if it's 12 jars, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, 12 jars and $25. At the time it was $20. But what I did is I did some calculating of how much did I pay for that meat?
Oh.
And then how much more is it costing me just one time, not mentioning overuse, reusing it over and over again. And because they are so durable, these are lifelong products here. They're not, flash in the pan kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I realized that it was only costing me another 50 cents per pound in total to preserve all my hard work, and my work is worth that amount, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And the thing that I think is really important to remember, like you said, that's 50 cents per pound roughly on the first time you use it. Mm-hmm. And it's paid for itself at that point in time. Everything time after that you use it, you can look at it a few different ways. That price per pound goes down and down and down infinitesimally small, right?
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. Or you can look at it as the point it's paid for itself, and now you're protecting your hard work, your labor, your creativity. You're protecting that for free from that point on for the rest of your life.
Well, it's an earthquake
as long as you do.
It's an earthquake-friendly product.
Absolutely.
And it's a flood-friendly product, whereas the other products out there are not. Mm-hmm. Nor is the other product that tries to imitate you, like you said, it's made in China. That's cheap plastic. It's going to break.
Yeah. And again, this is recycled medical grade plastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's made for durability.
Yeah. It's quality. The other thing that I think is really interesting about it is that you buy the jar boxes that you need. Maybe throughout time you need a few more and you keep buying them, and that's fine. But they're there.
That's the nature of a canner. You're always going to need more.
Exactly. And we'll always be here. And but as you have children that start to do their own preserving, you have something that you can pass to them as well, because they will last. Your box a lot of people say I can just use the box the jars came in. Well, of course you can, but that's going to fall apart.
It's going to fall apart in a flooding situation. It's going to disintegrate. It doesn't have, it's not going to protect your jars from a 7.8 Richter scale.
That's a unique thing that happens, but this protects it also from the everyday common things, insects, all that sort of stuff. It all stays out. Your jars stay clean.
And mice. I haven't had any mice get into my jar boxes, and I have plenty of mice that drive me bonkers. So I don't have them urinating. As you know, mice don't have bladders, and so they urinate everywhere they go, which causes rust on your lids, etc. So having something to protect them top and bottom, not just sides, is
absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, well let's talk about, so your target market is the canner then, is that correct? Is there any other potential markets?
I think that I would say our target market is anyone who uses mason jars or needs some way to separate or control things. Our target market, gardeners like us, like I said, for using them as for the starter plant. We have a woman who's a knitter who she stores her individual balls of yarn in the cups and then uses it as it goes on. It's a way for her to organize. Anyone who's looking to organize might find a use with this.
Yeah, but obviously its highest and best use is for the jars. I mean, that's what it was created for, and that's I can't imagine needing to protect my yarn.
It's her
but
choice.
You know, everybody likes to do their hobby, their craft in a certain organized way. That's the hallmark of a hobbyist, you know.
Beaders,
and so
a lot of people who bead and make jewelry like to use them.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're oversized organization boxes. Okay, what's the customer feedback been like? Are there any creative uses people have shared that surprised you?
Creative uses that have surprised me. There's always something new, right? But I think mainly the most important thing that we can come up with. I'm sorry, I have a battery issue happening here. Oh, that's okay. We'll deal with it. I think some of the more creative things have always been people who just kind of look for ways to transport things that are interesting. People who are campers who take things with them. People who are just wanting to be ready in the event that something happens. They've always got something.
You know, the thing that I like about it as a prepper is being able to grab and go in a hurry if I needed to. But as a camper, I mean, if you're the mom of the family or whoever's in charge of the food, I should say, let's not be sexist here, and you're in charge of the food for the family and for your weekend trip, you know, that could be 12, 24 jars, depending on how big your family is. So being able to just take the jar boxes on that trip is
fantastic.
A luxury,
absolutely.
Definitely a luxury. So sustainability is obviously important. How does Jarbox align with some eco-friendly and sustainable practices?
Again, like I said, it's made from recycled medical grade plastic. So that's definitely something that gives us an advantage there. The fact that it's reusable, it's not a single use product. Okay. That's something that's absolutely excellent. And then when you take into consideration the fact that we're helping those people that are no longer relying on the grocery store. They're no longer relying on those vehicles, the commercial vehicle out there. They're being they themselves are more self-sustainable. And we have, like you said, a lot of preppers who enjoy our product. And we have not more importantly, but equally importantly, homesteaders, people who are coming off the grid. A lot of the people are able to maintain their lifestyle that way and reduce their own footprint and be more self-sustainable.
So as we were talking about price point, the breakdown in the cost per sale at that full retail price, which I never pay full retail, I'll tell you that. And anybody who listens to this podcast won't need to either. All they'll have to do is use the coupon code PREP Pro when they're checking out. They'll get a nice little discount there. But at full retail, it breaks down to $2.08 per sell. So if you use it, let's say, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, like you said, it does. It pays for itself over and over again, and protecting your work, protecting all the hard work that they've already paid. Let's say I'm canning beef and granted, I got it on sale, but on sale is still $3.99 a pound nowadays.
Exactly.
Enough for me to trigger a purchase, but not enough for me to want to destroy it. I like also that I can carry all the jars up to my shelving and not worry about dropping a jar, because I've done that a few times. Trying to put everything in. I've done it the lazy man's way and taken them up, by the jar instead of the box. So, All right, let's talk about the canning world a little bit. How do you see the popularity of canning evolving? Has there been any noticeable change in interest over the recent years?
The biggest change that we've seen is new gardeners from that thing that they called a pandemic, the new gardeners that popped up then, and the new people that were starting to say, wow, there's so much food that I have now, and I have something that I have to do. We now have the creation of this thing that we like to call the urban prepper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people in rural areas have been doing this for forever, and people in the cities have not really done it. But now we have the balcony gardens, the patio gardens, things like that. People who are actually now preserving their harvest from those gardens, and their space for storage is limited. Well, when
Yeah.
you live in the apartment situation, their space is limited. So this is now solving that problem for them from the moment they get involved with it.
Yeah, I'm noticing a more youthful crowd coming into the world of
Absolutely.
canning too, which has
Mhm.
been so refreshing. I mean, nowhere near what we need to see. There's still people who don't think that they can eat unless DoorDash and Grubhub exist.
Yeah.
But I am seeing a younger generation coming into the world thanks to social media and making people aware that yes, it's possible. Let's talk about some of the interesting things that people have canned, and I'm just going to do a disclaimer here, folks. I am a rebel canner. I can things that most people do not can. I shouldn't say most people, because anybody who's worth their salt, they tend to be a bit of a rebel canner too. But I say that not because I have disdain for the USDA and its guidelines, but I belong to a world of nations, not just to one nation.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, the USDA is a little overzealous in some of their guidelines, in my opinion, and they do not have a market on safe canning practices. Canning is much more common in Europe than it is in the US, and they do not use the same standards that we do. They water bath canned meats for 3 hours in a water bath. They can all kinds of things that the USDA would tell us never to can. So let's talk about some of the things that you've seen people can. Anything unusual that you've seen them can, Rob?
A lot of fish. I've seen a lot of fish getting canned, and meat of different types.
Yeah,
Um, and there's people who are now using dry canning methods and things of
sure.
that nature as well, to, rice and grains and beans and things of that nature, seeds even.
Yeah, I have been canning milk. I've been canning butter. I have been canning cream cheese. So I mean, there's just so much. I can pumpkin. I have been also able to can squash and all kinds of sauces that are typically frowned upon with the USDA, saying that they're too dense. But I mean, canned pumpkin exists, and I'll be darned if I can't do canned pumpkin as well. So,
Absolutely. I'm really sorry about my little snafu there.
no, that's fine. That's fine. I
That
was
was my
talking
fault.
anyway, so it's
Yeah.
all right.
Okay. So
So yeah,
our point with canning in general, whether you want to call yourself a rebel canner, an experimental canner, whether you want to call yourself creative, our point is, if you're canning, and you need our help.
yeah,
And we
absolutely.
want to be there for you.
What do you think there's some common misconceptions about canning that maybe you'd like to clarify?
I think the biggest misconception is that it's for old ladies. It is
Yeah,
not. It is
yeah.
not.
If you
Men,
eat food, then canning is for you.
yeah, absolutely. If you eat food, you need to can. If you want to make sure that you will always be able to eat food, you should be preserving things.
So, Rob, what do you think about food security in the U.S.? What do you think is happening in the U.S. in terms of food security that brings canning to the forefront?
We're seeing more and more people who are interested in being self-sustainable. And as people want to become more self-sustaining, more ready, more prepared, which, however you look at it, as people want to become more dependent upon themselves and less dependent upon, and have less faith in the fact that our government might look out for us, as more people start to see that, I think we're starting to see people expanding their knowledge and the wonderful world of YouTube where they're teaching themselves how to do it because no one in their family had ever done it. I think that we're seeing a new generation and a new vibrancy, a new excitement about it. I think people are starting to really feel a self-assurance because they're able to find these ways to preserve things and to become more creative about it. Like you said, Europe has many other things that are commonly canned there, and because of YouTube, people are trying it here as well, and people like yourself who tell people about it. So it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing is if you look up the cases of botulism, according to the CDC in the U.S., there was only one foodborne case of one canning case of botulism in the last 20 years. And that's considering all of the canners that there are, which I thought was interesting. And fortunately, the person did not pass away. But that's a whole lot of canners that are doing things the right way. I mean, as long as you've got massive heat and pressure, and you reheat things when it's time to cook them, or if you're doing the water bath canning like with fruits and such, there's some rules to adhere to there that are just basic. But it's in my opinion, it's really hard to mess up canning. The principles are so fundamental in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage anyone to take it up. I have a YouTube video on Preparedness Pro, the Preparedness Pro channel, for canning meat. Meat was the first thing that I learned how to can. And once I learned how to can meat, I was off to the races. I was like, wait a minute, you mean I can get this meat on sale for 99 cents a pound and not care about how much room I had in the freezer? I'm there. Absolutely. Nice. I'm there. And that was, I first started canning meat back when there was a company by the name of Zaycon, and I was able to get, $300 and $400 worth of free meat every month. So I had a lot of canning to do.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're not around anymore. That would have been nice. But so now I focus on buying a fourth or a half of a cow or a pig on farmers, on ranchers' places. And that's a really great solution to canning. So let's talk a little bit about the challenges that you see home canners facing today. Are there barriers to getting started or common pitfalls that they encounter?
Oh, I think that a lot of the challenges are really more self-inflicted than they are external, because we're able to get jars and lids and everything. All of that's back to normal. We're able to get those things. And the challenge is actually just deciding you're going to start your garden and you're going to do some stuff with it, or you're going to go and get the meat that you need to do it. You're going to start to preserve things. You're going to start. The challenge is, how do the people around me look at me when I'm setting up my pantry? When I'm starting to set up my food stores, how do I get past what my friends call me crazy now? Well, no, I'm not. And you won't think I'm crazy when you're coming to my house to get food sometime later on in the future. Or,
and it's not even, we don't even have to have some kind of major crises for canning to be valuable. For me, it's a way to stabilize your purchasing power. If I am able to get a deal, for example, I'm going to go get turkey for 67 cents a pound. I'm going to go ahead and roast that turkey, and I'm going to make turkey broth, and I'm going to make turkey soup. And guess what? 5 years from now, that turkey will have still been 67 cents a pound. But I guarantee you 5 years from now, I won't see that 67 cents a pound turkey. It'll be a higher price. And so stabilizing your purchasing power is vital for canning.
One of the things that has been a nice thing for me is I'm a single man. I live by myself, and I make a lot of food on the weekends, and I put it in the jars and I store them, and I have them for a long time, right? And whenever I decide I want that soup, I want that chili, I want that pasta meal, whatever it is, I can go to the jar and I have it. And here in Florida, where I am, the hurricanes came, and I have friends who lost power for weeks on end. And here you go, man. I've got some food for you. That was kind of a nice thing to be able to do. You know, people don't think about, and all the different times, just, you know, power can go out for any reason. Look what happened in Texas a few years ago. They had that huge freeze.
Yeah.
You know?
So would you say that the most rewarding aspects of canning is, you know, being able to help others out, being able to maintain the price points of what you pay? What else would you say is rewarding about canning?
I think for a lot of people, it's the ability to share what you did. What a unique gift that you can give somebody. Then, you know, here's the pickles that I made, or the pasta sauce that I made. Here are these things. You came to my house and you really liked that soup that we had. Well, here's some for you to take home. I think the ability to share that with people is also pretty exciting.
Now, you know, I'm definitely past my prime. You're showing a little gray there. How do you think we make canning more relevant to the younger generation?
That's something that I don't think we need to do. I think this younger generation is finding it on their own. I think that their creativity and their desire to be they want to be self-sufficient, a lot of them, and I think they're finding it on their own. I have 3 young men that I have raised, and one of them all of a sudden said, "Dad, look, I've made pickles." You know, so it's kind of cool. Yeah,
I'll never forget when I had a secretary. I'll never forget when I had a secretary who asked me what plant pickles came from because he wasn't sure. Oh dear.
Oh my. Well, yeah. But that's the next thing. Pickles can come from any plant you want them to.
Well, that's true.
You're only limited by your
watermelon, I can say it.
You can pickle anything.
Pickled watermelon rind is actually really good. I've just finally discovered that. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So how do you see technology influencing canning in the future? You think we're still going to have some innovations on the horizon?
Interesting thing, because somebody is always going to find a better mousetrap. Somebody will always find the better mousetrap. Somebody will figure something out that might make it simpler, might make it faster, might make it more economical. Who knows? I think that the human mind is a very creative thing. And as more and more people get involved in something, and more people are willing to try the things that they've been told they cannot do. You know, you can't can that. You can't preserve that. Why not? And as they try to do it, and they find ways to do it. Yeah. So I think as people try to do different things, we're going to learn and find more stuff out. And I think yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just think that the world is always creating new things, and we're going to find the ones we like and the ones we don't. And I think this is an area where somebody's going to learn to be creative again.
So let's talk about products and practices, you know, little gadgets and gadgets, or not so little. Just for the canners or would-be canners listening to this, I actually am an all-American canner girl. That's the canner that I recommend. You want steel against steel. Mm-hmm. You don't want any gaskets that are going to fail you. Remember that you can cook in a canner. So when you buy these great big canners, let's say you had to cook, you know, for a sudden influx of family because of a crisis that you didn't even know you had. You can cook in those canners. There is a misconception that you cannot cook or you cannot can on a flat top stove. You can, as long as your flat top stove is within the last 2 decades, you can certainly can on top of that. You want to be careful about moving it back and forth on that flat top stove because you could scratch it. There are weight limits sometimes with the flat top stoves, but I've been cooking on or canning, I should say, on flat top stoves now for 20 years. So that's a myth that's out there, but it's dispelled as of right now. Congratulations, you can now can on your flat top stove. But Rob, let's tell them, what other products are out there that you would recommend for avid canners?
Oh my goodness. I'm very simple with what I do. I have my grandmother gave me what she has when she saw that I had an interest, and that's what and I've not gotten very experimental with it. So to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of recommendations for any unique things out there. I'm very simple with what I do, and I'm okay with that. I never knew that people said you couldn't do it on a flat top stove. That's all I've ever done. So,
there you go. Good.
Yeah. But I really, what I would have to say is that if you're a more serious canner than I am, and you're really, really in doing this, then you're going to find things that are interesting to you. And if you see a use for it, try it out. Try it out. If you like it, get back with us. Tell us what you think.
Well, some of the things that I would recommend, I have discovered the brilliance of the stainless steel funnels. I just love them so much more than the plastic ones that you can get in the kits. I have 3 different sizes that work great. And also the new mason jar vacuum sealers. I mean, those are wonderful for doing dry goods. I've had some people not have them work properly, but there is a couple of hacks for that. But the new mason jar sealers are great. They're rechargeable. So you don't have to have electricity like you have to with your food saver with the air port. So that's another option that people could look at. One thing I want to point out for canners, though, that I'm a rebel canner, but I'm a common sense kind of gal. And some of them are doing what they call oven canning. Just because a lid seals does not mean that you have canned that product. That just means that you have a lid that's sealed and it got hot enough. So I would be weary of those kind of methods. Another thing that I get asked a lot about is an alternative for lids. Can I reuse the lids? Well, Rebel canners do reuse their lids, but if you get Tatler lids, those are reusable canning lids. That's akin to what our great grandparents did. You know, they used a lid and a rubber ring, and then you don't have to keep paying for the lids. So I'm a big fan of the Tatler lids. Also, I've discovered that it's the same company that's manufacturing the lids for Ball and Care. And I've started having some lids fail to seal in those batches. And it's the first time in my life I've ever had that problem. But I'm noticing that there's a compromise, I guess, in the product. And so I've started using all jars for my lids and haven't had a problem with them sealing just yet. So that's food for thought for anybody listening.
Excellent. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
And again, this is another thing that I think is really important is sharing your information. More than anything, you learn something, share it with people.
Absolutely. Well,
and that's
what advice
one of the things
do you
that
have?
you do that I really like.
Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular advice for someone considering canning for the first time?
I think that if you're considering canning, any advice that I would have for you, you've already surpassed because you've gotten to the point where you're saying, I want to do this. Just do it. If you're considering it, do it because you're going to find out that that's the right thing to do. You're going to save money. You're going to have food available for yourself. You're going to save time in the long run. For me, honestly, it's a time saver. It saves money and time. That's why I like it. I spend a little bit of time one day preparing meals, and I've got them for months and months on end.
So one of the things I would suggest is that the people joining a social media group. because there's a lot of great information in those groups, and they're massive. They're 100,000, 200,000 members. So when you ask for help, chances are you're going to get it. Don't fret about the people who are, ornery. Just ignore them, because everybody's got an opinion sometimes when they don't need to be sharing it. They should be helpful. But I would suggest joining the social media groups on canning and see if you can't get some additional help there. Well, sure. I just have two last questions for you. One is, what is your vision for Jarbox in the coming years? Are there plans to expand the product line or introduce new features?
The Jarbox itself will not change. It is what it is. There's no new features being thought of at the moment. People have asked us about possibly making some that are darker than others. And that's a hard decision for us, because a lot of people like the fact that you can see what's inside it. You don't have to go open it up and look. You can see what's in there. So a lot of people like that. And my advice is, if you need it to be darker, put it in a different room, or throw a blanket over it. Okay.
Yeah, everything should be stored.
Better. We have talked.
Everything should be stored in a cool, dark place anyway.
Exactly. That should not really be the issue. The one thing that we have talked about is we have talked about some different sizes. And we're a very, very small company, and we're maintaining a boutique status about this now. We feel like that gives Jarbox an elevated position in the world. Okay. It's a prized possession now, the way that we do this. And so we are thinking about some things. When they might happen, I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Gotcha. Yeah, it does take a little longer to pivot sometimes when you're a smaller company, but I would say that you're a mighty company. Yeah. I mean, you've hung on literally 10 times longer than most new businesses do. You've been around for a while now. You've proven your theory, so to speak. And I just hope that more people come to value the Jarboxes. To me, they're a preparedness step, and I find so much value in them. And I love the multi-purpose uses that you've mentioned as well. So my last question for you, it's kind of a gotcha, Rob, because I didn't talk to you about this beforehand. But if you could, I asked all my guests this question. If you could put one thing in the mind of a prepper, for them to get straight, for them to really understand, what would that one thing be?
I'm going to say, if you're thinking about it being a problem or a possibility, then it is. And you're already a step ahead of the game. I think that's really the biggest thing that I can tell them. You are ahead of the game, and you know what? Maybe the event that you're preparing for may never happen, and maybe it does, but this is another situation where it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Rob, so much for your time. And thanks to Jarboxes, folks. If you go to jarbox.com and you make your purchase, I would try one out, at least one, so that you can just see how awesome they are. You can actually, there's a little bit of give. You can actually shake a little bit. It's not like you have to worry about, will this jar fit perfectly? But I just love that sound, knowing that my jars are protected, even when they're shook a little bit.
Absolutely.
It's one of my favorite sounds.
Yeah. And if you would for us, please promote your code that we're going to set up for you real quick. It's going to be ready by the end of the day.
Yeah, so go ahead and go on to jarbox.com, and when you make your purchase, put in Prep Pro for your coupon code. That coupon will be good every single time you use it. So it's just for non-Prep Pro.
And we're going to start you guys out with an introductory special price for being viewers here on Preparedness Pro. You're going to be able to use your code Prep Pro, and you're going to get a 40% discount on every single jar box you buy. So instead of the normal $24.99, you're going to pay $14.99 for every jar box you buy.
Wow, that's wonderful. I hope you heard that, Caroline, because Caroline has been mentioning to us about how she's got so many jars in the comments. So that's a heck of a savings, and I hope people take advantage of it. Thank you so much. It's been a joy talking to you, Rob.
I'm very grateful for you having us on, and if we can help you and your viewers, we're glad to be here for you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much,
Thank you.
and I'm sure we'll catch you again.